Welcome to the Gynergy Effect, where energy meets intention and transformation begins.
We're your hosts, Garin and Yesi, partners in life, love, and purpose.
Here to share the tools, truth, and stories that helped us build a life from the inside out.
Whether you're seeking deeper health, conscious relationships, or your next level of purpose,
You're in the right place.
Welcome back to the Gynergy Effect. Today we're sitting with a beautiful woman whose work is deeply aligned with the heart of this entire platform. Our guest, Kara Love, is a compassionate guide and a master of emotional intelligence, trauma-informed healing, and conscious transformation. She creates powerful spaces through retreats, mentorship, and her podcast, Kokoro, where people feel safe to examine their stories, reclaim their truth, and realign with who they were always meant to be. Her work centers on healing, growth, frequency, self-discovery, entrepreneurship, and the courage to come home to yourself. Today's conversation is for anyone who's been navigating transitions, confronting old patterns, or feeling the call to step into a more aligned version of themselves. Kara is an open book, and she brings depth, intuition, and devotion to everything she touches. Grateful to have you here, Kara.
I'm so grateful to be here. It's such a beautiful place, being back in San Diego, and to be welcomed by your warmth and hospitality and just the big smiles. And there's just so much light. You know, I feel it. As soon as I walked into your space. And so thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you. I know we've been connected. I feel like it's been, a year or two.
Yeah, I feel like it's been over a year we connected virtually.
Yes. And just, staying in connection through social media and being able to follow one another's stories has been such an awesome experience. And to be here in this moment right now, we were just speaking before we started recording about, how synchronistic this, connection really is, and, divine orchestration with the timing and it always happening at the perfect time in the perfect place in the perfect space. Yeah. So thank you for welcoming me.
Thank you for being here. We're so grateful. And we were also just talking about the timing of it being like in December, like the end of the year.
Yes.
And you were mentioning like there's like a shift happening between like this year and the next year. So it really does feel like divine timing.
It does, shifting from that snake energy, that last 9-year chapter, if you will. And, everything is being revealed and things are shedding in a way, masks, false identities, archetypes that are no longer serving for us and this next chapter of our journey. And so now moving into the energy of the horse, where it's like, you really take life by the reins and you just, you run and it's full speed ahead and, but you do it with such grounded, safe, calm, guided, intuitive energy and awareness. And, we were talking about intention and just moving forward with that intention of, really just, seizing life and, being present one day at a time. And that's a trajectory I'd like to be on,
Me too. That is definitely the energy I desire to carry forward into 2026.
Yeah.
Like grounded, present, intentional.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one thing I loved when you first came in, and we're talking about just going through adversity and just life in general. And just when you get to a certain point and you go through enough, it doesn't really affect you the same way that it used to. And one thing I said was like, you have to go through it to get to that point.
Right.
Or like you probably went through it and you're like, you have to go through it to go through that point. And
that's the only way to be. I mean, if you have the perspective of I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get through this, oftentimes, and for myself, living for so many years in survival mode, you get to a crossroads where you're like, okay, that's enough of that. It's enough of, the overachieving and the perfectionism and the trying to fill certain voids that, may have been in your awareness or maybe not, but it's really slowing down to the point where you can become aware of all of those different things that, you had an unhealed perspective or, it wasn't, in a wholeness, certain, wholeness that you are able to embody. And once you have the awareness and the consciousness and are able to identify those things, you really sit back and you take a seat of observation with the things that are happening in your life, whether it's, things that you're going through, ways that you show up, ways that other people are showing up in your life. And you really, take into account how you are navigating through all of it. It's really just, you have to go through it, but it's, what's your perspective? The effort that you're putting in, is that being reciprocated in all of the different ways and the facets of life that, you are going through, the things that you have to experience. So, it's a lot of the work that I do is with shifting your mindset and reframing limiting beliefs. So it's your perspective on things that you're facing. And like, you get to the place that I'm at in my life where it's like, my whole life I've been handed, bad hand after bad hand of cards. And you get to the point where you just slow down enough to remember who you are, which is like, I think the first step in anyone really achieving a level of self-mastery or just mastery in general, however you want to apply that in your life. And you just get to a place where you rediscover yourself, or, discover yourself for the very first time. You come to a place of wholeness. And really, when you're whole, there's nothing there that is void. And so when you're walking through, you mentioned confidence and groundedness and trust and safe. Those are all things that have been learned and then relearned. And, there's so much that's been unlearned to get back to this place of, wholeness and an embodiment of complete. And then when you're here, then nothing can really move you, because you're grounded, you're whole, you're steady, you're sure, you're confident, you're at peace. There isn't anything that's missing. You see people that are moved by things or triggered by things, and it's because there is a void or there's a lack somewhere. The masks that people wear, and the trying too hard, or the half truths or the untruths, and you see it, and then you get to a place of compassion because you see why people are the way they are, or why they move through life the way that they move through life. And then you just sit back and you're in a seat of empathy, and then you just you sit here and you're like, it is what it is. They are who they are. It's okay, because I know who I am, and I'm okay, and I love me. It took me a long time to get to the I love me, because it was always, childhood trauma. It's always the storyline of I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't worthy enough, or I wasn't doing enough. And, that created a lot of other things that needed to fill to fill the voids, the perfectionism, the success, being driven to prove to whomever back here, or out here, whoever's watching. It was that drive to prove my worthiness and to prove myself. And, it's like you live a life of that, and you end up exhausted and drained, and you don't even remember who you are anymore. Or maybe you never knew who you were. And, now you're in this place where, you're 30, 40, 50. Some of my clients are 60 years old, and they're like, I don't even know what my purpose is in life. Or, I took all of these wrong paths, and now what do I do? And, so it's helping people slow down to a point to where they can get back in touch with who they are, what brings them joy, what makes them happy. And I think that that's the one spot that everybody needs to go back to, because when we're in this life, this busy, fast-paced life, we have these demands, we have the pressures of, society, and, you add in indoctrination and conditioning, and, you have a spouse, you have friends, you have family, you have, people that are really relying on you or looking up to you. And so we adopt these, ideologies of who we're supposed to be, to show up for all these different people. We wear these masks, we put on this mask today, this mask, the wife mask, the mom mask, the sister, the daughter, the boss, the employee, whatever mask that may be. And then we forget who we were before we piled all these masks on. So the whole point of of, a shift in life and an expanded level of consciousness is identifying each of those masks and taking them off one by one, layer by layer, and having the grief of that loss, because, we became that person to serve so many different things in our lives. But then when we remove one, we're losing a part of ourselves that did so well for us. But to get to the next level of evolution, we have to remove them one by one by one, and just be completely stripped, be taken down. A lot of times, it's being humbled time after time after time after time. And, you think you hit one rock bottom, and then you discover a new level. And then, it's just layer after layer. But, when you're able to remove all of those masks and all of the archetypes of, who you had to be to get you where you were. The attachments, that's a huge thing. I work with a lot of people that are very codependent or anxious attachments. And, it's, again, identifying those things about ourselves. A lot of times it's really hard for people to come to terms with, I'm XYZ. Well, our shame is what holds us in place. And a lot of people don't even identify with having shame. It's such a very sneaky emotion, but, oftentimes it happens in childhood. You are so excited about something and a parent just doesn't have time for you. And, they're like, no, not now. But it was the biggest thing in your life as a kid. In that moment, you shift to, adopting the emotion of shame that maybe you just weren't good enough, or you weren't good enough for their time or their attention, or for them to care enough about something that meant so much to you. And that's where it starts at the micro level, and then as you get older, that shame builds and builds and builds. And a lot of people don't know that they're just harboring that shame. And there's this, very toxic shame guilt cycle that people continue to ruminate in. And I personally was one of those people. There's so much shame. I've been through a lot of childhood trauma and different types of abuses, that, just by nature of what I experienced as a child, a teenager, young adult, and even through my adult life as well. You really hold on to that shame unknowingly. It's a very subconscious, a deeper, darker emotion, lower frequency emotion. Like if you look at the scale of frequency that David Hawkins wrote, it's one at the very, very, very bottom, just because it is so destructive, and it's so dark, and it's so low, and most people are walking around with that shame. But when you're walking around with shame, you can't have confidence. You can't have, your ultimate worthiness or, feeling of wholeness either. So it's kind of, that acknowledgement. It's the awareness, it's the acknowledgement. Then it is, the putting the effort in to reverse that and to rewire your mind. I'm kind of a nerd, so I study a lot of neuroplasticity and, just neurology in general, of how to rewire your mind. And through the breath work that I mentioned that I facilitate, we dive into the subconscious. So the breath work is parasympathetic supporting. So it supports your parasympathetic nervous system, which also supports your vagus nerve. And that really creates the foundation for you to be able to rest, relax, and restore. The breath work is trauma-informed and somatic. So meaning we work through the body, which is where we store all of our trauma, all of our negative experiences.
There's like a book, The Body Keeps Score, right?
Yes, yes. I'm rereading that one actually right now.
It's on my list to read. I'm like a reminder of that.
There's a wealth of knowledge in that book, and it puts a lot of things into perspective on how the human body and brain not only process trauma, but are changed due to trauma. And one thing I always try to mention when I'm working with people is there is a very common misconception about what trauma is. A lot of people think that it has to be this really big event, or, we were just speaking about World War II. And, in that book, The Body Keeps Score, they talk a lot about war veterans and the massive amounts of PTSD. But people don't understand that micro traumas add up over time, and then you just have this huge amount of trauma that you're dealing with. And it wasn't just one or two big events, but you know, people don't consider all the different types of trauma that you go through on an emotional level. And you know, trauma is really defined as anything that you go through that you can't fully process in that moment. So it will be stored in your body. It'll show up as dis-ease or pain or headaches, or you know, parts of your body that are aching or not operating properly.
That's why I wake up and my body hurts every day.
Right. Yeah, because if you're working through all of that, it's no longer stagnant, and it's not holding you hostage or holding you prisoner, you know. And the studies show that the trauma that is in your body is primarily accessible through your subconscious. And there are only a few ways to tap into your subconscious.
I was going to ask you, what were the other ways that you can tap into?
So some of the ways that you can tap into your subconscious are through deep meditation, breath work, where you're shifting into your limbic brain, and other facilities like psilocybin is one. I've worked with that one myself.
I love psilocybin.
Yes, it's a very feminine approach. It's the yin to the yang. The yin being, you know, that softer, feminine, nurturing, light, where the yang is things like ayahuasca, for example, where that's
DMT.
That's more Garin style.
Yes, that's very masculine. It's like, you know, tough love. Let's get this out. Let's work through this. Face it. Look at it. You know, I've done so much shadow work on my own that I was never called to do ayahuasca, even though a very, very close friend and mentor of many years actually is in Peru 6 months out of the year, and she holds she facilitates in the dietas and works with people with ayahuasca and wachuma, and has studied the plants I mean intensely for years. But for me, you know, the psilocybin, when used in microdoses in a therapeutic setting, really do recalibrate your brain. It creates new neurosynapses in your brain, which is, you know, new connectivity, creating new patterns. And that's the whole entire point of, you know, the subconscious work, is to unwind and unlearn unserving patterns, or patterns that, again, kept you safe, got you to where you needed to be, but now
are no longer serving you to get
no, because, you know, a lot of people come to this plateau in their growth, and, you know, they're like, okay, I just feel like there's more, like what's next, you know. And that's that stage of what's next is the catalyst for you to take it to the next level. And so often, like, the people that I work with are primarily entrepreneurs, high profile, very successful, C-level clients. You know, they're at that stage where it's like, okay, I've hit this glass ceiling. Now I want to break through it. I don't know, like, I can't get out of my own way. They've, you know, done all the things, tried all the things, and now they're at this place where, like, okay, I need something more. Well, I come in with something more. I'm like, all right, I have for this.
Nitro boost.
So what does that look like?
You know, well, it really starts with the mentorship. It's really getting to know somebody. It's, you know, asking identifying questions about, you know, what is your life history, you know. And I always go back to childhood, because whatever is holding you back here happened all the way back here. And again, you develop all of these patterns, right? And we develop this systematic approach to accomplishing or achieving or puzzle solving or doing. And we are patternized creatures. We're cyclical in the way that we operate, and we operate out of 5% of our consciousness, like 5% only. 95% of what we do is out of our subconscious every day. So it's like a computer hard drive.
It's on autopilot.
Right.
And so if you reprogramming the autopilot is key, if that's 95% of your time.
Right. And again, the only way to access that is through certain modalities or methodologies. Well, when we need to go into your subconscious, it's you know, unexplored territory. A lot of people are scared to do it. A lot of people are intimidated. A lot of people feel that they're going to go through all of this pain or re-experience the trauma. So a lot of people, you know, shy away from it. They do. Or they make excuses.
It feels scary. It feels uncomfortable.
Yes. Or, you know, there's always, for the most part, there's always an excuse of why they can't.
Yeah.
You know that person isn't ready to go to the next level if there's an excuse, because the people that come to me are people that are hungry for it.
Right.
Yeah.
They want the change. They want the shift. They want to get to the next level of whomever it is they feel deep down that they're supposed to be. There's a calling. Oftentimes it's intuitive. There's a spiritual awakening involved. Or, a lot of people, it starts with the ego saying, oh, I need to get to the next levels of success. And then by the time I'm done with them, there's no more ego. You can't move to that next level with ego involved. It's ego death after ego death. And that's really hard because a lot of people are so attached to that ego identity.
Right.
And I think that the ego is also misunderstood. Like, a lot of people look at the ego as something, separate, and it's really attached to self. It's just that you have to unravel whatever narratives you have attached to these different ego identities for you to be able to just come down to the homeostasis and a level of neutrality where you're like, I'm just me. Like, this is me authentically. There's no shame. There's no need to be understood anymore. I think that's one of the big things that holds up a lot of people from moving forward to the work that I do, is that they feel like, they need everybody to like them, or they need everybody to accept them. And they just, if they don't feel accepted and understood by everybody, then they can't drop the mask. And it comes to a certain point where it's like, you have to get comfortable with being misunderstood or not being, everybody's thing, because, we're not everybody's thing, and that's okay. But
I always say, if you're everything to everybody, then you're nothing to nobody.
Right. Because again, if you're everything to everybody, that means that there's a mask for every single person you come in contact with. Once you have no mask anymore, you're just like, I'm just me. Like, this is just me, and I'm okay if we meet and we don't align. That's okay.
It's better to know that sooner than go through this whole motion, and then you set up resentment because you have these unset expectations that people don't even understand, because you're being somebody that's not even genuinely you, and then you're putting yourself in environments that aren't in alignment. And then where does that take you at the end of the day?
Right. Well, and one thing that you mentioned, which is a big thing that I work with my clients, is to not have expectations. When we have expectations of others, we are literally setting ourselves up for failure, because, the expectations that we have are based on who we are. It's based on our standards. It's based on, our philosophies in life. It's based on our work ethic and our output and our morals and our values. And we can't place those expectations on other people. The best way to approach any sort of engagement with someone else or relationship, whatever the relationship dynamic looks like, is to have no expectations and to approach everything with, it is what it is, because they are who they are. And it's okay, but you have to be able to accept that. And I think a lot of people, this is something that I had to learn, is you look at someone's potential and you see greatness, right? You see what they're capable of. But there are so many people that have so much other stuff to get through and to work through. And that is their journey. We can't have any idea of authority or try to implement what we feel is best for someone, even though it's like, you love them so deeply and dearly, and like me being, mom, I look at my kids and it's the same thing. You have to just let them learn. It's the same thing for adults. Again, I was telling you, I work with people that are in their 60s, and it's like you see these people that, have this deep yearning to be better or to do better, to let go of certain things. And in the mentorship work that I do, which is to answer your question, where we start with, a mentorship. And then we really, my in-person clients dive right into that breath work because it is all revealing. It isn't me. I'm just here holding the space. I create a container of safety. I work really hard at building and establishing trust. The experiences that I curate are meant to allow people to go deeper than they've ever gone with themselves, which is very scary for a lot of people. Most people are so out of touch with themselves, which is why they can't get deeper in relationships with other people, whether it's professional or familial or, an intimate relationship. they can only go as deep as they've met themselves. And in our society today, people can't go deep because our world is shallow. Yeah. And, you know, the majority of people aren't talking about these, you know, more taboo topics like trauma, because trauma is like, I'm waving a red flag right now at the camera. Like, you just say the word trauma and people are like, we're going to talk about trauma. Like, you know, we're wired to survive. Trauma is opposite of surviving. Trauma is exactly what our bodies are wired to avoid. So you're asking somebody to go against their, you know, biology and how we are created to avoid things that cause us pain. We're supposed to run in the opposite direction of anything that's a threat to our well-being or our peace, right? So the work that I do is already provoking. And, you know, when we go into the subconscious and we start swimming around in there, I don't know what's coming up. Every person is in charge of their own experience. You know, it's you are in your own subconscious with your own memories, with your own experiences. I'm here on the other side so that we can talk about it. So, you know, doing the talk therapy, you know, the psychotherapy atmosphere, but in a very safe environment where, you know, they've already exposed the most vulnerable parts of themselves during their breathwork journey, which is anywhere from, you know, an hour and a half to 3 hours. And, you know, when you have a breathwork experience that I facilitate, I've never had someone not cry, for example. It's a very uncomfortable place to be where you're in your subconscious, you're blindfolded, you know, you have the music that's playing that matches your journey, the peaks and the valleys. And you really are stripped, and it happens so quickly. There was a doctor that said one breathwork session is equivalent to like over 200 talk therapy sessions. So you can imagine just
the power of it.
Yes, how profound the work is. But we are able to accomplish so much in shorter amounts of time that, you know, it's like fast tracking my clients, you know, the trajectory that they're on, it just speeds it up even more. And, you know, the one thing that I hear consistently is that people come one person and leave another. Like there's a true deep transformation because there's nothing that's hidden anymore. And then when you face all those parts of yourself, you make peace with them, you love them, you forgive them. All of the healing that is on the outside really starts inside, but it's really getting that person to agree to having that deep, intimate relationship with oneself. And that's where it starts. It's so foreign for so many of us, right? Like we are told to not pour into ourselves because it's selfish or it's taking away from, you know, you name it, work, a marriage, a relationship, you know, somebody else's needs, you know, trying to work on yourself on an emotional level where other people that are around you aren't at that level of an emotional intelligence or emotional maturity. It's triggering for them. And it holds up a mirror when you start to grow. It holds up that mirror like they already feel unworthy. And then you're holding up this mirror of, well, I'm working on myself and I'm starting to get my confidence back and my light is starting to come back. And the life, you know, your life force energy is just like starting to just seep through, you know, every movement that you make. That person that is on the other side is going to be triggered and feel their own shame and feel their own unworthiness. And it's kind of a downward spiral because at that point, people typically recluse even more. You know, it's very seldom that I really witness like someone that's choosing the path of growth, choosing the path of evolution and, you know, expanding their own awareness and level of consciousness, that another person is ignited and wants to do it for themselves. There's always that, well, now I'm really not good enough. Well, now that person's really going to see all my flaws because, you know, they're healing theirs. So there's this separation, and the balance is so mandatory for people on any level. With, you know, some of the C-level executives that I work with, it's, you know, now, well, I want my employees to do this. I want every person that works for me to go through something like this because you know you're not getting the highest level of productivity the highest level of, integrity or standards or work ethic.
And that can, kind of become a trap too, that you end up walking into, that you have to be careful as you go through this process. Because I know as I went through early on, and I resonate with you of, there's so much trauma. Trauma is like people that, like, I'm sure, and I want to get into this a little bit, but a lot of the people that have really poured their life into stuff like this, it comes from a lot of pain, and it comes from those times and they've just got to a point where they're like, you know what? I'm not going to be okay just being okay anymore. Right. And I'm going to take those steps, and I'm going to dive into this process. And I know for my journey personally, as I went through that, and I had a lot of trauma as well, just as a kid growing up and all of that. And as I went through that process and became aware, and then you start seeing other people that may not be aware, the trap becomes then like of judging other people, right? And so I think it's really important too, if you have a partner that you're going to enter into, you're entering into this journey. It's really important that communication as you take the journey, not to just be like, oh, now that I'm reflecting on myself and now I see these things that, oh, just because you haven't done that, now you're at a lower level or you're not seeing this. And that can in itself become a really like negative loop that happens. So I think having that communication, and if you're going to take that journey, have that your partner take that journey with you, or at least be communicating through and not judging the other side of it. Because I think then once you get to a certain point of that evolution of yourself, then like you said, you sit in that chair with empathy instead of judgment. But I think the first aspect of it is easy to become judgment.
Absolutely.
And not the empathy.
Absolutely. And the reason why it's so accurate, your statement, the reason why is because, when someone has this awakening within themselves, it's very motivating. It's like, you want everybody to understand what you're experiencing right now, because you feel free. For the first time, you are starting
to experience that freeness, that freedom, right?
Well, and then think about it. If it's a person that you love with all your heart, don't you want them to feel that too?
Of course.
It's like you want the best for them. Yes, I lived exactly what you're talking about. At first it's like, you have to do this. It's like, okay, we're together. We have to rise together. One person may not be ready, and again, like I said,
it goes back to the expectations, right?
Right.
Part of like loving unconditionally is accepting them for who they are, and not just who they are, but where they are in life.
Well, and that comes with every scenario is different, right? Yeah. It comes with a different presentation. There are different aspects to every relationship. Even with the clients I work with a lot of couples. I've been through a lot. I've been, married twice, and you learn and you grow. Like, I'm a person, I love being in a relationship. I've just always been such a deep person that for me, surface level relationships just aren't my thing. Yeah. So I'd rather not have a relationship if it's not going to be a deep relationship. Yeah. But, you learn a lot. And, I feel like every 10 years you become a new person. It's like, it's you, we were just talking about that 9-year cycle, right? But it's like every decade you become a different level of yourself. If you're the type of person that grows, if you're the type of person that seeks evolution and wants to be better and wants to know more. Like for me, I'm knowledge thirsty. Like I want to continue to learn and be better and grow. It's always been my trajectory. Yeah. It's always been my path. I've been put through the most atrocious, awful, challenging things and experiences, most painful. Yeah.
What are some of those experiences, if you don't mind sharing? Some of those like that really allow you to tap into that level of consciousness and really like come home to yourself.
So growing up, I'll just summarize it really quickly for you so that you can understand. I've done, I've been on my own healing journey it'll be 8 years in 2026. Yeah. So
2026.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Did we just say 2026?
That's crazy.
I went there. We're in December. I'm allowed to.
Is it really 2026?
That's wild.
It's going to be.
Oh man, this past 5 years is just.
It has.
Like
It has. It's, with everything that's happened, on a collective level and the shifts that I'm feeling, that battle between light and dark has become more and more clear every single year. And, we're here now.
Yeah.
But being that I'm, coming into year 8 of my self-discovery and healing journey, I've been able to talk about the things I've been through so many times, through my working with my own mentors and now being a mentor to so many other people. My heart is to help. My heart is to provide the awareness. I just, I have never been the type of person that's ever, other than, my trying to prove to myself that I can do things. My heart has always been to help people. The people that I care about, I will do it with a vengeance. I will do it unapologetically. I will, before I used to approach it by any means necessary to take care of the people that I love. Like I love to love. I have it tattooed on my hand.
Yes.
Oh, I love
I've gone by the alias Kara Love for years now in this work, and it is everything.
You've made that part of your identity.
It is my identity because, it actually came to me in a session I was working with one of my mentors. She was this little Chinese lady that was probably in her late 60s. And she's probably 70 pounds. She was able to
adorable.
channel. I know, she was. And she was able to channel information for me from, higher realms, my higher self. And that's something that I have learned through the years that I'm also able to do. So I understand what she was doing and the purity and the source of information that she was getting it from. But she left me in there a 90-minute session. She did acupuncture to be able to relax my body through, utilization of the meridians. And it kind of puts you into this state where it's like, okay, I'm open, right? And then she left me in there. She's like, I want you to ask what your gift is. And I'm like, what my gift is? I'm like, at that time, I just felt so unworthy.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't have gifts. Like, I can do anything that I put my mind to. You give me a goal, I will obtain it. I will achieve it. But I'm like, gifts? I don't have gifts, So I sat there. The first thing that came to me within seconds, I didn't even have to try. It was love. And I was like, okay. I'm like, love. Well, my mind works at such a fast, rapid rate. Like there's, I have 5 windows open and each one of those has 30 tabs open. Yeah, that's how my brain works. I'm always on the go, always doing, always thinking, always processing, analyzing.
I can see that. Your mind moves very quickly.
I do.
It's full of information. You got data coming out.
It's
constant.
Think about this. It's not only coming in on a logical and analytical level, it's coming in on a spiritual level because of my connection.
That's a big one.
Being a Reiki master, with the attunements that I received for that, now I am a clear channel. So what comes through is not just, 3D. It's not just, what we're doing here today. No. It's, different realms. I'm getting different information and different downloads, and it's on a spiritual level. It's on energetic levels. I'm feeling stuff from you guys. I'm getting stuff from you guys, from your teams up there. But, there's so much information that's coming in. I have to be in this place of groundedness to be able to balance it. You think about a storm that's going on. If you don't have solid roots, you're being uprooted. I hate to say it, but it is. But I sat there in that session for 90 minutes and I didn't have a single thought that I could form. Not one. I was on the verge of crying because I'm she told me to ask what my gifts were, what my gift is. And I got the word love. And for 90 minutes, I was going crazy in my mind because I couldn't figure anything out. I was trying to think of something. I was trying to come up with this elaborate, I couldn't make thoughts. Yeah. I could not. There was no thought form going on up there for me anywhere. I couldn't access anything. So she comes back in and she asks me.
Simple.
She asked me, she's like, well, did you ask? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't get anything. And she's like, you didn't get anything. She's like, this entire time? I'm like, well, I did, but I'm like, it's not even, it's not, I don't know. A word came to me. She's like, well, what was that? And she's like, if it came to you, that's what it is. And I'm like, well, I was told love. And she's like, well, there you go. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? That's not a gift. It took me so long to really understand what that was. And then when I did, to actually accept the value of that gift, I'm like, I felt so honored. And then, and then the waterworks came, because then I'm like, wait, God, really? Like, that's the gift that you gave me? So it's like, okay, well, the gift of love. You know, you look back at anything biblical, especially New Testament, and it's
all love.
Jesus spoke of love. Everything was about love. Love. You know, it feels
God
so
loved
cliche.
so much, he gave his only son.
So simple, but it's so profound. It is everything. So, you know, when I understood that, I'm like, okay, there's something else. There's something bigger, you know, and looking back at everything that I've been through, my father was an alcoholic. His biological father was also an alcoholic, both in the military, which is where he met my Japanese grandmother. And so that was passed down, that militant. My father also grew up in Japan. So, you know, you start looking at, you know, the culture and how it's so much different there.
Culture's so much different.
It's everything when you're looking at, you know, a place like Japan with how they raise their children, and especially how women are looked at so differently than men, and just, you know, how they're raised and what's expected of them. And so being that my biological grandfather and my father were both alcoholics, something that I didn't really come to terms with until this healing journey. He was very abusive on a physical level, but then also mentally, verbally torturous. So mind games. My dad and both my mom, they're very, very brilliant, intelligent people. But with my father, you know, being an alcoholic and then having experienced later on, you know, through some of my sessions, especially with sound healing.
I love sound healing.
I do too. I facilitate that too. But
don't you facilitate? That's amazing.
You know, everything that I used as a modality to heal myself, I had to go seek. I had to go find. And it took my journey so much longer, even though everything happens for a reason. But now with the retreats that I host at my ranch in East Tennessee, I have the horse equine therapy. I have the sound therapy. I am a Reiki master. I facilitate breath work. So
all right, so when are we coming?
I was like, I'm signing me up. I'm like, I'm ready to go.
After this?
Come.
Well, so we're there.
I would love to actually.
I host large retreats. I host small group retreats. I do solo retreats. I do couples retreats. I do corporate retreats. It's always word of mouth too. You know,
that's the best.
It's a place to unplug. You are off grid.
Disconnect.
It's peaceful. You disconnect.
Be present.
Yes.
In that moment.
Yes. Just be.
Just
is there a specific time period, or does it vary based on?
It's the time period that you're aligned with. Okay. It's always that. I never try to tell anyone when they're supposed to come.
It's when you feel called.
It's when you are called. It's when it comes up in conversation. It's you know, it's something that it happens in an aligned flow. It's never forced, because if it's forced, there's resistance.
Yeah.
And then when you have resistance, you're just pushing away what's meant for you.
What resists
blocking
blessing.
Well, and then it does, and then it'll come back, and a lot of times it comes back with a little bit more spice.
Yeah.
Like,
isn't that true?
Yeah,
that's the facts right there.
It does. So, you know, starting off my childhood, you know, with that type of, you know, built-in fear, terror, survival, it really created the foundation for me to become hypersensitive. And my intuitive nature, I was born with. My mom and sister both have intuitive gifts and supernatural gifts, if you will, the ability to see things. As a child, you could call it night terrors, but what was happening was I would see entities. I would see dark entities. My family wasn't really religious. They weren't really spiritual. So I didn't have the protection of being able to call in, you know, Elohim or God or my angels and guides for protection. Like I do with my kids now. You know, my 9-year-old just told me yesterday that God came to him in his dreams and told him not to do certain things anymore because it had a satanic property to it. And so I'm like, okay, he definitely has my gifts as well. But I used to see dead children during the day. They would be normal, like you and I would see them, but I knew that they were dead. I could tell, I could feel. At night, they would come to me in my dreams as they passed. So I would be able to see what happened to them, whether they drowned, whether they were abused, whether it was a car accident. I saw them with their mangled bodies, burned bodies.
That's heavy.
Sounds overwhelming.
As a child, I mean, imagine,
really heavy.
right? And then to have, a parent that was extremely abusive and another one that there was no emotional connection at all because we were always walking on eggshells because of my father and him taking everything out on me, based on his own upbringing. And so that led to me living in fear, which created anger through the years, which turned into hatred for my father.
Right.
Well, with that came rebellion because I was so sheltered.
Of course,
So spending the night at a girlfriend's house, my best friend of 8 years, it was either just turning 13 or 13. So it was 12 or 13. Her mom orchestrated a get together on a weekend, pumped us full of alcohol, encouraged us to play this drinking game. It was 4 girls. That night I had alcohol poisoning so bad that I don't remember really anything. All I do remember still to this day, I was actually told that I'll never be able to really see what happened because it was so traumatic. Her father raped me. And I just remember running at one point. I remember it came years later. I had gone to the mom to tell her what had happened to me. But I couldn't remember. I could just feel that I remember seeing her face and I'm like, this happened. And I remember something transpired to where then I ran out through a glass slider door. And all I remember is I was running out of sheer terror. And I had tripped and fallen. It was really cold outside. The ground was wet, fell on the grass. And all I remember was looking at my hands and I was just dragging the grass as somebody grabbed my ankles and was pulling me backwards. And the only other thing I had remembered from that night, I knew something really, really awful had happened. I had alcohol poisoning so bad that they had thrown me into the bathtub and were running cold water on me. And I heard them talking outside. We need to take her to a hospital. Well, we can't take her to a hospital because, her parents will find out. She has alcohol poisoning. We can't do this. Just keep her in there. They were shoving baking soda and water down my throat, like forcing me to swallow it to try and get me to throw up. And I just remember shaking in the bathtub and I was just freezing. And those are the only 2 things I remembered. Well, later on, it was the day of my healing journey that started it. I had a girlfriend that was, you call it a prophet, you call it a medium, you call it a psychic, you name it whatever you want. It, different religions, different beliefs. It's all the same thing. You have a connection to God. One way or another, the information that you're
Whether
getting,
it's the one, the
label
source,
it whatever
God,
you'd like to label it. It's all the same,
and we're all one.
We are.
We're all energy. We're all sharing.
Right.
We have God inside of us.
Yes, and the more connected you are to His Spirit within you, and the more you are,
the more you can hear, the more you
looking outside of yourself for that. The more you hear, the more you see, the more you feel, the more information you can get. Like we all have these abilities. How clear are you? How in tune are you? How right here, directly to the source of all the information is God. So, she suggested that I sit with these 2 prophetic elders at the church, who were also seers, mediums, psychics, whatever you want to call them. They gave me all this information. They told me what happened, the severity of it, why God wouldn't let me see it. There weren't details, but they confirmed what my soul remembered. They confirmed what happened was the next morning after that rape. The mom tried to cover it up by saying, oh, well, when you were drunk, you said that your dad molested you. So she implanted a lie. And to take it off of her husband, because she was the one that actually had orchestrated it. Right. Later on, they told me that he had been watching me since I was 8 years old. No, I'm sorry. Yes, 8 years old. So it was a few years later. And that friendship had ended, after a term of 8 years when, I couldn't remember. So there wasn't anything to talk about. But, as the friendship kind of dwindled, I started to slowly get more and more intuitive nudges that there was something seriously wrong. I shouldn't be connected to her
You
anymore.
allowed yourself to be open to receiving that information.
The problem is, though, is that when that lie was implanted, because of how my dad abused me on a physical level, I didn't know if that was true or not. So then the relationship with my dad severed even more. And then, you know, I'm sure you've heard people that experience sexual abuse typically have to go cope somehow. So my coping, even though it wasn't by choice, was to just get out and go experience life. I used to go on drives, really long drives. I really got in touch with music. It became part of me to be able to get into that creative side of myself. Well, unfortunately, but fortunately for my journey, but, you know, unfortunate circumstance was I met someone and we started talking, dating, seeing each other. I was 15. So it was like one of those young relationships where it's like, you don't even know it's a relationship and maybe it's going to last for a month, you know, if we're lucky. You know, like kids these days, my kids, my 2 teenagers, you know, they're just.
Puppy love.
It is, you know, it was. Well, I had heard through his friend group that he was doing drugs. At that time, I was so sheltered that all I knew was, okay, dare, say no to drugs, red ribbon week at school, right? So I went to him and I was like, you know, you just need to stop that. Like, I can't be associated with that. And he was like, well, it's not that easy. I'm like, well, yeah, it is. You just make a decision, you just do it, and then you stop. Well, he was like, no, you, it's not that easy. You can't just stop like that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to show him. And I was like, I went to his sister's friend. I'm like, whatever he's doing, I want to try it. And then I'm going to show him, you just do it, and then you stop. Well, I did it and I got hooked. So I ended up getting addicted to speed, meth for 2 years, had near-death experience, almost lost my life. My parents put me into a mental hospital, experienced things there that nobody should ever experience in their lifetime. And the things that I saw and heard, people that go into those places come out or never get out because they go crazy in them. Like, they are not designed to nurture and heal people. They are designed to shut you up and keep you incapacitated and medicated. And so again, like, I'm 16, 17 at this time, witnessing these things. My parents didn't know what was going on. They thought I was anorexic and suicidal, and I had gotten emancipated at 16. The one good thing about it is that when I went into this charter school program, they tested your education level. Well, as a sophomore, testing in for my junior year, I was at a sophomore college level. So I was like, okay, well, you know, it is what it is. My workload's going to be insane. But I ended up taking college classes at the same time because I was up 24/7. I was able to do my junior and senior year with all my college classes in 1 year, and I graduated a year early, which gave me the ability to get emancipated, which gave me the ability to get out of my house where, you know, I was living with my dad and I was running from abuses that I couldn't even remember that I had suffered, and went down this path. I mean, drug dealer's house to drug dealer's house, and, you know, living on the streets. I was homeless, lived in my car for 3 months, just kind of just, you know, that gypsy energy of just, you know, I didn't have a plan. I was just like, I'm just living. I'm experiencing life. I've been stuck in this, you know, I felt like a prison my entire life, you know, under the heavy hand of my father. So I got street smart really quick and learned a lot about life in general. I mean, you talk about, you know, fast tracking on a doctorate of street smarts. You go do some drugs and go live on the streets.
I'll teach you a few things.
You know, guns being pulled out on me and, you know,
fully immersed.
Life threatened. Yeah, it was a lot. So, you know, again, my heart has always been with family. It's always been, again, to nurture and to love. I wasn't in an environment where I had that. And everything, again, you know, being, you know, in a state of incoherence when you're, you know, intoxicated with any foreign substance. I really tried everything that there was to try, aside from like hallucinogens and like I joke that I still had standards because I'm like, you know, no heroin, no crack, you know, but that was my story. That's the path that I had to go down. You know, you talk about the extreme nature and the trauma and the depths of hell and darkness and the satanic energy that is in those lower frequencies. But coming out of that, you know, it was coming up to my 18th birthday, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done living like this. I just made a decision, stopped one day, went back home. It wasn't about getting clean. I just decided I was going to be clean. And then that was that. Went into the banking industry, excelled at that, climbed that corporate ladder ridiculously fast. It was very black and white and systematic and structured for me. So I thrived. Was managing banks a year later, and then went up into risk mitigation, loss management, worked at a regional level here in Southern California from San Diego up to LA, and did that for almost a decade. Got pregnant with my daughter. Well, I'll back up a little bit. I was 15 years old, 15 and a half, out where I wasn't supposed to be out, Huntington Beach. Went down with an older friend, and we were supposed to go to a church dance. We showed up, but then we left. We went downtown. These 4 guys just happened to be coming down from a bar. It was like 11 o'clock at night. They introduced themselves. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're law enforcement here. You know, we're just having a night out. What are you girls doing? You girls want to go hang out and have some drinks?" We're like, "Okay." Like we were gonna meet up with some friends, but then we were like, "Oh, we'll meet up with you guys later." They went and got drinks. Took us to this house. We walked in and it was empty, and we were like, "Well, why is it empty? Like there's no furniture." And they're like, "Oh, we're just moving in." Okay, no problem. You know, there was nothing to tour. So we were just kind of standing there, awkward, you know, silence, asking, you know, superficial questions. The guys were making a couple of drinks, short cups, like Scotch whiskey glasses with margarita mix in there. She and I had a couple of sips, and all I remember, there were 2 things I remember. One is that I had the one guy that was talking to me. I just remember tall, big, very demanding, kind of felt like the leader of the pack of the 4 of them. I was laying in bed and he was on top of me. I was like kind of strapped down, and I just remember a flash of him on top of me, molesting me. And then I remember the second thing that I remember was looking at the TV, and I remember I had fixated on it for a moment, and I saw the Gladiator movie playing. And never to this day have I ever been able to watch it. But the next morning, and mind you, that happened that night. That's all I remembered. I woke up in the morning in a pool of my blood on this mattress that's in this room. That's the only thing that's in the room other than the TV that's on the stand over there. And there's nobody there. And I'm completely naked. I try to get up. I can't even think. I'm so foggy. Like my vision is blurry. I have no recollection of what happened. I couldn't even remember the night. Like how did I even get here? I couldn't even remember that at the time. And it took me a really long time to kind of come to. Like I couldn't find my clothes, and I'm like, what is going on? Like I was in pain. I'm looking at this blood, and I'm like what happened? I'm kind of stumbling around. I make my way to the door, and then I'm kind of looking. There's 3 other doors that are out there, and so I'm going around the corner because I'm just like, I'm just gonna get out of here. Well, then I see that there's a bathroom door that's open, so I'm in there, and I'm just trying to like put myself together and just be coherent and clean up and as best I can. And then as I'm coming out of the bathroom, the door opens, and then my girlfriend comes out, and she looks how I feel. And like, we don't say anything. She just kind of walks right past me and goes into the bathroom, and I'm like standing there, and I'm like, okay, what do we do? Like, she drove, and so of course I have to wait for her. She comes out of the bathroom, and then we just, without saying a word, we just both beeline, you know, toward the front door. We leave. We don't say a single word the entire drive home, hour and a half drive home to where we lived at the time. And I never spoke of it again. I wanted to tell my parents, but then I was somewhere where I wasn't supposed to be. So then I already knew what was going to happen with my dad finding out, you know. So it's like, I don't know what happened, to be honest. All I know is what I just shared with you right now. I have no information to give. Like, I have no names. I have no anything other than this guy's name was Dave. That's all I know. And he's, you know, a police officer. I won't say where, but it's here in Southern California. This is what we were told, is they were all 4 police officers. So That was my second massive trauma that happened, other than the first sexual abuse. And then you add that to the rest of everything I just shared.
I'm sorry you experienced that.
Yeah, I am too. Looking back at younger me, I'm just heartbroken that I had to experience these things. But at the same time, like, again, I wouldn't have learned what I learned. I wouldn't have built the perseverance and the tenacity and that deep drive, somewhere where I don't even know where it came from. It's a soul level drive for sure. It's purposeful. It was aligned with my soul mission. I know that now, but it's like, why in those moments? It's like, why? I remember I was like, I need to write a book about this because I've been through more stuff at 18 years old than most people go through in their entire life. And then, we go into, I got married to my first husband. I met him just 3 weeks after I turned 20. He was older, he was 36. And, finding somebody at my level of maturity on every level was very challenging at that time. And he was very stable. We're good friends even now. My daughter's now 17 and a half. But when I had her, I had my OBGYN, gave birth to her. It was a pretty traumatic experience with like the epidural, and they had only half of my body was numb, so they had to pull it out and they had to put it back in. It was an induced labor, all the drugs, just very incoherent. Well, I ended up having severe postpartum depression after that, severe. 3 months after, I went in for a checkup with my doctor, and he ended up molesting me on the table. It was, the nurse was in the room, but she had her back turned. She was doing stuff with the charts. And it was one of those things where it's, he was whispering things to me. He had his body turned and the table was up against a wall. So he was whispering things that were inaudible on the other side of this big office to the nurse. But when he was giving me an exam, he was doing things intentionally and talking to me about it while he was doing it. And at that time, you have victims that, fight or flight, right? Because we go into survival. You narrow your perception to survival, right? It's fight or flight. But people often don't talk about the freeze, the fawn aspect, where for me, considering the abuses that I had been through already, my natural response was to freeze. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I couldn't fight. I couldn't flight. Couldn't run. I couldn't speak up for myself. I was really beat, literally, to not speak and to not have an opinion and to not have a voice. So in this circumstance, everything happened to me. Then the nurse left. They both left, and then he came back in. Well, he didn't come back in with the nurse the second time because there was no exam going on, so she didn't need to be present. Then he started to talk to me about his wife and his kids and how he was attracted to me, but he loves his family. And I'm like, is this really happening right now? Is this really my life? I was so confused by what had just happened. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip his eyes out, but I literally couldn't move. And I'm looking at him with disgust. And I'm like, I just couldn't believe that I was actually dealing with another human being. We are interacting this way. He went on to stalk me, calling my phone from different phones, his personal phones, other office lines, for weeks after that. And mind you, this was during a time where I first child, completely sleepless nights, exhausted, already not feeling like myself, didn't know how to handle this situation. I went to my husband at the time and he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but something. And he's like, well, I can't do something. It's not like I can go beat him up and I'm going to lose my job. He's like, he's a doctor. And he's like, are you sure that happened? And I'm like, am I sure? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. So, and then it's kind of my experience was completely discounted, and I was meant to feel a little crazy, and I knew I wasn't crazy, but then I was also experiencing severe postpartum depression. That was the beginning of it. Going through 2.5 years of severe postpartum depression, not understanding it was my hormones. Doctors were putting me on medication after medication. I felt even worse. I was even more foggy. I was out of body. So my entire life, primarily, I'd been disassociated. That is how my soul, a very sensitive, highly sensitive, empathic, intuitive soul, deals with things. We just have to disconnect because it's just too much. So I was disconnected. I felt like I was floating above my body. I felt like I was like a pinball above my body, and I was going crazy. And I had turned to alcohol to cope. So I was drinking a lot. I was by myself. My husband at the time was gone all the time. Yeah. So I was here raising this little child by myself. Closest family is a couple hours away. And I just started to isolate. And I was trying to figure out what was going on because I had always figured out everything. Yeah. But this time with my hormones out of control and not knowing that that's what, postpartum depression really is severely out of balance hormones. Yeah. I just started spiraling. Well, I ended up, we moved into this home originally because I was being taunted by an entity at my home. So at some point I had picked up an entity, being that I was at such a low frequency. After having my daughter, we had to move out of that house because this entity was taunting me.
Was it like at night or during the day or just
all the time? All the time. There would be things that were in the kitchen, like kitchen utensils that would be upstairs in the bathroom and vice versa. Lights would turn on and off, going upstairs, downstairs. I would be downstairs and all of a sudden they would turn back on or flicker or go on and off. I had candles in lanterns that were hung that would all of a sudden just turn on. The candle would light itself. I remember having balloons for something and they were like, playing punching bags with the balloons. And it was engaging with me, literally taunting me. And I could feel its darkness. And so I'm like, we just need to get out of here. So we ended up moving, went to a new house. During that time, it was kind of like any other day. But I remember when I woke up, something was different. I wasn't me. Yeah. Something was off. I woke up feeling like I was a man, first of all. Like I had this like man energy, masculine energy. And I'm like, but I only acknowledge it now because in the moment I didn't know what I was feeling and I didn't know what was going on. But looking back now, I am able to reflect. I had harbored an entity. So you talk about like, angels, right? Yeah. Angels exist. Well, demons also exist. Yeah. And dark entities, dark spirits. You can feel it when someone is, especially, whether it's drugs or alcohol or the lower level coping mechanisms that people have, you can just feel like almost they're possessed. You can look in their eyes, they're dark. You can see the light is on. Yeah. It's a real viable thing. And I only speak it because it's from experience. But looking back now, I remember that day was unlike any other day that I've experienced until just a few years ago when it happened to me again, the second time. This time, I was unaware. This is 15 years ago, 16 years ago almost now. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I know now. I didn't know my gifts. I had asked for my supernatural spiritual gifts to be turned off because I was getting too much information, downloads. Now I understand it was guides. And there's also other entities and people that will present themselves, spirits, people that haven't passed over, people that have passed over. Energies. There's just a lot of stuff that I was experiencing. It was just very overwhelming. So many, many years before that, I had asked for it to all be turned off. And, free will that we have, you ask and you shall receive, right? So it was shut off. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that I didn't still feel things. Yeah. I just wasn't acknowledging them or paying them any mind, but that doesn't mean that they didn't have an effect on me. So I remember going through the morning like normal. My daughter was down for a nap and I was guided into my master bathroom. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, who are you? Like, I don't know who you are. Yeah. And it was this dialogue that I thought I was having with myself. And it felt like I was like, okay, you just feel out of body. Yeah. No, I was literally talking to whomever was inside me, whoever used me as a vessel, this guy that I understand, I could feel his energy now. I remember feeling it because I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. Like, I'm like, it was just a feeling. And when I was looking in the mirror, like, who are you? I was talking to this thing that I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, I ended up spending the next 2 hours approximately in that bathroom. And I was contemplating my suicide. I was pacing back and forth. We had a huge master tub in the bathroom. And I remember just pacing back and forth. And I was walking around and I kept sitting down. And what I was going to use was a gun that was in the shoebox that was on the top shelf in the closet. And I had made an agreement with myself, technically with myself, meaning whatever entity was in me, it was who the agreement was made with. It was a dark entity, clearly, that was trying to convince me to kill myself that day. And I made the agreement that if I had stepped from the tile in the bathroom to the carpet in the master closet, that was the agreement. It was done. I would do it. I knew it was up in the shoebox. It was unreachable, but it was up there, safety reasons, protection. And I was going to take it. And then I was contemplating, okay, how am I going to do this? So I was like, okay, well, the most logical way to do this is to sit on the side of the tub. And, it's either going to be, in my mouth, my head, here. I don't know. I was trying to figure it out. And then like, okay, well, I have to be leaning back when I do it so that I fall. So I was in the details of how this was going to go down, because planning, prepping. And then it came to the point of, okay, cleanup. I just want to make it, as easy as possible for it to be cleaned up, because, I don't want to inconvenience anybody else. And I was like, okay, well, but who's going to clean it up? And I'm like, okay, well, the cops will be called, and then there will be the cleanup team, and, but who's going to find me? And then I'm like, okay, it's either going to be my husband or it's going to be my daughter. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute. How long has she been asleep? She's been asleep that long. She's going to wake up. What time does he get home? There's a possibility that she's going to find me. I'm like, she can't find me. I'm like, I can't do that to her. I'm like, if he were to come home and find me, okay, it is what it is. I didn't feel protected by him based on things that had happened, recently with the molestation and the stalking of my OBGYN. And I didn't feel cared for. He was always gone. I felt really just alone all the time anyway. So it's not like he would really miss me. So there wasn't like an emotional connection of, oh, I don't want him to find me. But with my daughter, I'm like, there's no way. I could never do that to her. The loss alone was going to be tragic enough for her as she grew up, but I couldn't have her find me. And then there was this almost like sense and feeling of light right here. And it's almost like something broke through and showed me truth, and light came in just long enough for me to be like, no, I can't do this for her. She's my daughter. I love her. It was that battle, that spiritual warfare of dark
versus love,
evil versus light and love, God's love. And my love for her was so pure. She was so pure that love is what I was like, no, I'm not doing it. And it was over that plain and simple. The next day, I remember reaching out to a girlfriend, and I'm like, she was the first person I talked to. And I'm like, this is what's going on. I'm like, I need help. I've seen the doctors. They've given me the medication. She's like, well, go see a naturopath, because it's probably your hormones. I was in the fitness industry. I was competing at that time. I was doing fitness modeling. I was immersed in that. So, after having my daughter, I went down that path as my coping mechanism. It went from, being alone and isolated to diving into fitness in the fitness industry. Got through that, got on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, found out I was premenopausal at 24 years old, was able to fix that, but then went down kind of another dark spiral in the fitness world. And it was all consuming. I ended up going through divorce. And after that, I got into another relationship that was very, very, very abusive on a physical and emotional level, narcissistic, sociopath. Just went from one bad place and feel like I just got attacked by another dark.
So it sounds like sometimes that becoming obsessive is like a coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
At times,
because you're at your worst. You are just stuck in survival mode. And if you look at the trajectory of my life, it's been survival mode through absolutely everything I've been through. And the coping was high success at whatever I did, and it was trying different things. And because of my postpartum depression, I couldn't go back to my corporate job. I was just not the same person anymore. I couldn't think clearly, so I couldn't perform at the level that they knew I could perform at. So I couldn't do that to them as my employers. I'm like, I'm not here anymore. I'm not capable of being the top producer that I am.
So what were some of those, when you went down that fitness path, what were some of the traps that you went through
You
that
know,
were
the body dysmorphia became a really big problem. It was all consuming.
I've done bodybuilding and I've experienced body dysmorphia. It's real.
Well, and I did that for 6.5 years. And then
6.5 years. Wow. Oh, wow.
yeah, I competed for that long. And then I was back and forth to LA, which is another, dark place.
Yeah.
And so I was doing commercials and acting and modeling and single mom, in that abusive relationship. And then got into my second marriage. And at that time I was just kind of like, this is an identity that I no longer align with.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not here for superficial reasons. I'm not a superficial person. It got me through, but it's no longer who I am. And I no longer want to be who that version of me is demanding. And so I went back into real estate. In all of that, I had gotten licensed in real estate. So I got relicensed in real estate and started building the business of fixing and flipping homes. And then it progressed into luxury homes, ultra luxury homes. We were doing a lot of stuff in LA, Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Santa Monica. And then we hit the ceiling on that and then moved into commercial real estate development. And that along with the private equity and the real estate and building the lending team, I mean, we scaled at such a fast pace, but we started with nothing and built it from nothing. And, both him and I having such drive because, we really aligned at the worst times in our lives, both of us. And coming to that place where, you meet somebody that's been through so much in life from childhood, you connect and, in many ways you bond because of the trauma. Trauma bonding. It's a big thing. Like it's real, but you also meet people at the frequency that you're at.
Right.
You really, you do.
And
You always do.
It's a mirror.
It is,
definitely a mirror.
And you call these people in because on a soul level, it's my belief that, before we come into our life, we're sitting up there with God and we're like, all right. He's like, what assignment do you want?
Exactly.
And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I want to be somebody that is a voice for other people, that changes the world at whatever magnitude your gift will allow me to. The gifts that you give me in this soul mission. And so it's like him and I are sitting there and we're mapping out the things that I'm going to have to go through in my life to get to the point where here I am now, launching my podcast, a guest on other podcasts. And I'm talking about the worst of the worst that people can go through in life. And not only did I survive it, I overcame it. And now I've, developed all of the principles to be able to thrive through that. And then guide other people and help other people realize that, as bad as it is, one, it can always get worse. But two, you have complete control over whatever your life is going to look like moving forward.
It's that shift from it happening to me to it happening for me.
Right.
And being in that energy.
No, you can always pivot. That's like, there's a lot of power in that, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I think that, people are so beat down in life that they don't understand that they have the authority to pivot at any moment. Like you have a choice to make every single second of every single day.
So if somebody right now, they're listening to this and they're feeling like they know they need to take action, like they desire to take action, but they're just stuck on this loop. What's the first step that they can take to break through and start, getting out of that cycle that they're in right now or that pattern? Because you said that beautifully as far as like sometimes we have to break those patterns or let go of certain aspects of life and reprogram ourselves. How can somebody do that?
It's the awareness. That's where it starts. It's the awareness. It's being conscious. It's you have to, well, I'll back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a mentor who was a very, very, very dear friend of mine, but she mentored me because she was a few years ahead of me on her own journey. Yeah. She told me one day, it was a slap in the face, but at the same time, I know that her heart was to deliver an impactful message. Yeah. She told me, Kara, when you get tired of your own shit, you'll change. I was like,
You get tired
God.
of that shit.
It made me so mad because I was like, what do you mean when I get tired of my own shit? I'm like, that's it's very frank, that's
a good one. When you get tired of your own shit, you'll change.
Yes. And so
it's not when anybody else wants you to change, it's when you finally reach a point where staying like the same is more painful than change.
Well, but when you get to that point,
excuses.
it's because you become aware of your own shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times we don't even know what our own shit is.
No.
It's like when you walk in someone's house and it smells bad, but they have no idea it smells like fucking whatever it does in that house because they're used to being in their own shit.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times we'll go and we'll plug in a Glade plug-in or we'll light a candle instead of going and picking up the shit and disposing it and addressing the root cause of the problem.
Right. Well, and interestingly enough, it's again, I always tell people it is the most intimate relationships that will give you the biggest and clearest mirror. And in my last marriage, it was one of those things where, you go into a relationship with all of the things that you've experienced in life, right? And you are able to hold up this persona of who you want to be, who you are at your core, especially if you go into a relationship at your rock bottom. Like you are humble, you are vulnerable, you are real. Well, what happens is as soon as that season wears off, you start getting down to authentic self. Authentic self comes with past experiences, past trauma, past pain, and then you are also wearing all these masks. So you have two people that are coming together with all of this similar stuff because again, we meet people at the frequency that we're at. So it's very similar. Typically people will have, even if their personalities are completely polar opposite, they will be at a frequency of stuff, we'll call it, and masks and voids, right? Because you have a void, you acknowledge the void, you're like, I can feel the void, and vice versa. So that's why you guys come together, right? Well, then you start to experience what those voids feel like. And the person's going to trigger those voids. They're like, oh, it's a void. I'm going to poke in there. See what happens. How are you going to act? How are you going to react? How are you going to show up for me when I'm poking you because I'm feeling something? That's what happens subconsciously until it becomes conscious. So then it is, you have a choice. My choice was, you're telling me I'm hurting you because of my own insecurities. Even though I see all of yours too, I will go ahead and I will acknowledge mine. I'm the type of person that's like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to find it. I'm going to identify it. I'm going to become aware of it. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to build a relationship with it. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to heal it. And then I'm going to show up as a better version. Because why? Because I love that way. Right. That's how I show you that I love you. And so, when you decide to go on this journey, you become aware of all those things, and along that way, you know the awareness. Then you
so how does somebody, real quick, just to back up before we go, the hardest part is becoming aware.
Yes.
Right, because a lot of us were always like, okay, yeah, it's me, but it's this and this and this and this, right? So how do you really become aware? And we sometimes I just brought up the blind spots that we have, right? Yes. So how do people really, if they're willing and they have the desire to do it, but they don't know what that is, what are some things that they can do to,
honestly, it's seeking out support. If you are in a place of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity to hear what someone else is saying, you have to hear it from someone else. Someone else that is neutral, someone else that is really there for your evolution, for your growth, that's there for you, which is why I took the position that I am in now, because I need to be that for other people, because I didn't have anybody. I had to seek out mentors, and it was only God literally
put the
strategically placed them, and I didn't even know that that's what they were for me at the time. But it wasn't because I had somebody that was guiding me to tell me. It was because I was seeking it out. And even worse is that the people closest to me were shaming me for doing this because, oh, well, you're just, all you care about is yourself, and you're just, you know,
But it's
doing
either
this.
you care about yourself at that point, or you're going to lose yourself completely.
Yes, it's a hard choice. But when you have somebody that, you know, is, you know, tearing you down because your growth is triggering their wounds even more. I'm sorry that you feel that way, and I'm sorry that my growth path is making you feel that way, but God is literally telling me to go this direction, and I have to just go. I have to listen. And that's my connection to God at that time was so strong, not close to where it is now, but it was strong enough to where, you know, with my gifts and abilities, I clearly heard the voice of do this, do this, do this. And I had denied it for so long. I was, you know, trying to honor what I was being asked, but at the same time, I'm like, I know God is telling me to do this, and I have to do it, and I can't look back. And I'm so sorry, but you know, my life, there's a purpose behind why I'm here. I am not just here to walk through and be a puppet in this 3D world. Like, I'm working with fifth, sixth, seventh dimension right now, and I know that I am here to shift the collective. I know that I'm here to bring light. I know that I'm here to set the example and to inspire and to motivate and to tell people, to plant the seeds, the ripple effect. Ripple. If I just work with one person, how many other lives is that going to touch? How many other people are going to feel the ripple of that decision? And for me, the mission of my life on earth, this one right now, you know, we could start getting into quantum physics and quantum leaps and quantum entanglement. Like, we could start talking about that. We could start talking about timelines and timeline shifting and timeline jumping and all those things. But, you know, if we're just talking right now, what am I supposed to do with this one life? And it's bigger than just you and I. It's bigger than just the circle. It's bigger than just my family, intimate, immediate, you know, distant family. It's so much bigger than that. It is worldwide. It is reaching millions of people. It is, you know, for the first time in my life, you know, in this new chapter that I'm in these last few years of speaking my voice, which is the wisdom and the gift of experience and the hard things that I've been through. It's like everything would be in vain if I stopped now. Like, you know, I know people don't understand. And, you know, when someone's called to something bigger and greater, the people that have a different life path, or, you know, maybe it's that will come to fruition later on in life. It's hard for people to understand when God calls someone else to do something. But that's why I think that it's so powerful. You know, when you hear people say it, you know, like, chase your dreams. Well, chase them, but make sure they're in alignment with what your soul purpose really is.
Otherwise, you could end up creating a life that you don't desire to be in at all.
Well, and that's where I was, because, you know, in the work that I was doing with private equity and real estate development and, you know, even in the corporate finance and banking, it was not in an alignment with my soul. And I literally felt like I was like dying. And
it's amazing how many parts of your journey like, if I shared my life, I could, like, you were just in such a great flow, so I didn't interrupt. But there's so many points where I could have been like, I had a similar experience in this way, or it resonates with me here, or that. And it's just, even from our roots and everything else, it's so funny how it all just, but you know, it just makes a lot of.
When I had this calling to write a book when I was 18, I'm like, not ready yet. Like, I know that there's so much more that I have to put in the book. Every year of my life, I would say the exact same thing. I want to write it. I need to write it. I need to get this out there. I need to speak my voice. But I couldn't. And you know, the self-doubt was creeping in, and like, oh, well, I'm at the end.
But now's the time.
Well, and I'm here. I wrote my book.
So when's it coming out?
I wrote it. You know, it was right. It was ready to go into editing, and life just shifted for me at the beginning of the year. So I was like, you know what, let's just put a pause on this. I want to make sure that, because I wrote it, you know, in 2 of the darkest years in my entire life.
Of course.
And it was the accumulation of everything that I had been through in life leading up to last year. And the beginning of this year. And, you know, I was like, you know, I just feel like this is the time where God is telling me to just be. And he literally was. That wasn't just, you know, a metaphorical thing. It was literally that I was being told, just be. I had to get back in touch with who I was. I had to, you know, I self-isolated for, you know, 6 months. I was on the ranch in the most peaceful environment ever.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
That sounds amazing.
It was.
Ranch.
It is.
Yeah. It's like a magical.
You must come
Yes.
to experience it
We're
because
definitely going to do that.
until you experience it, you don't know the level of peace that you can have in yourself. Yes, the environment's there. Yes, the energy is there, but it's really, you know, to go back to your question of what is that process? It is the awareness, it's the acknowledgement, and then it's the work. It's the shadow work. It's the inner child work. It's the deep self-discovery is what I call this work that I do, is self-discovery, self-love. It's such a cliche saying, but it's so true. It's those places where we felt unloved or unlovable that, you know, we try to outsource it. And that is an expectation. So if you remove that expectation of finding it somewhere else, and the protocol that I always give my clients is, and I don't know if I'm giving away my secrets right now, but you know what? I'm here to help. So if it helps somebody, then you know, this will be worth it. But it is finding the things that bring you joy. I work with a lot of people that they've made every accomplishment goal very successful, but empty, miserable, alone, living with regret, living with guilt, living with shame.
Financial success, everyone thinks, oh, I'm financially successful. That means that my life is like, I'm the shining star of like what life should be. And what you find out is that if you're not building for purpose, if you're not building in alignment with your values, it becomes a very lonely and empty place. Well,
it is. And the I haven't worked with a very, very, very successful person yet that is completely fulfilled and or healed. There's voids there that they were chasing to fill, which is what drove them to be as successful.
Yeah, that's part of what began that
they're so hyper focused as they like
became part of their superpower.
That is
because that's what gave them the drive. I always say, like, when
coping mechanism.
Some people live here, right? And then they can pull this amount of emotion or whatever, and that's okay, right? That's just where they are. Other people have been through a lot of, you know, emotional trauma, different experience in life. They have an availability to live life throughout a wider spectrum.
Yes.
You know, and I enjoy living life in a much wider spectrum.
Like I do too, you know, but until you know, you don't know. You know, you know when you know. And that's like a hard concept to rationalize.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't. And it's hard because, you know, going back to, well, you know, how does somebody become aware? Well, you decide to become aware of anything that's holding you back from, you know, it's like, who do I want to be? Who was I meant to be?
And then attunement.
A lot of times you don't know that answer, right? A lot of people that come to me are like, well, I thought that my life was supposed to be this, and now I realize I don't even have purpose, and why am I even doing this? And I'm like, okay, well, let's go back to square one. You know, you start, and, you know, the reason why my work is fully comprehensive is because it's not just one approach, and you can't, this isn't linear. We are completely non-linear on this plane of healing and growth and evolution, that, you know, there isn't a systematic approach to anyone. Every single person's approach is unique. However, there are fundamental things that you can apply to get there. And it's really the things I talked about, you know, identifying trauma, and then understanding, why am I the way that I am? Who am I? But why am I the way I am now? And when you can go reverse engineer and figure it out from childhood, and you can start putting the pieces together as to what led you to who I am right now, who do I embody? How do I think? How do I move? How do I interact with people? How do I spend my days? What are the things I'm thinking about when, you know, everything else is quiet? What thoughts do I have? What am I being consumed with? What am I feeding myself on a physical, mental, spiritual, energetic level? You know, you talk about nutrition, you talk about, you know, detoxing your mind, your energy, the people that are around you. And, you know, it's so important to take a deep dive. You know, you really have to start looking at all of the different parts of who you are and what you're made of and why you're made of that. So when you are able to look at that, you're like, okay, now I have a really clear picture. Now, what do I need to do to take away or to re-engineer or to rewire all the things that I see are holding me back from being the best version of myself.
Right.
Because everybody can see like, oh, I wish I was better at that. Or, oh, you know, I wish I didn't have, you know, this addiction, or I wish I didn't, you know, fall to these, you know, negative, you know, thought patterns. And, oh, I wish I didn't, you know, cope with, you name it.
Yeah.
It's empowering people to become the best version of themselves. Because for me, again, this work that I do is really intuitively led, meaning God guides me through the work that I do.
Yeah.
And it is making sure that each person feels empowered. This isn't me. I'm just holding the space and I'm giving you the tools.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to have to pick up the tool out of your toolbox that you've been building in this work with me and actually apply it. You have to integrate it. But that comes with working in your subconscious, because so much of what we're doing, again, is in subconscious. So it's not just, okay, go to talk therapy. Oh, get on, you know, a cleaner diet. I say, you know, get off of medications, get off of any synthetic stuff that you're taking, clean up your life, you know, alcohol being one of the biggest things. It's a depressant. Clean up your nutrition, clean up your mind. Limit things that you're feeding yourself that aren't getting you from here to there. It's like, you know, we look at the goal of, okay, client, where are you right now? Okay, we have a clear understanding of that. We've got that. Where is it that you want to be? Okay, now let's draw a line. So is this person in your life, are they adding to you getting there faster? Yes. Awesome. Keep them around. Is this person, no, this person's actually holding me back. Okay. No strings attached. Don't be emotional about it. You have to remove yourself from an emotional standpoint and become an observer. So you observe everything that's going on in your life. Well, if you're observing that this person is slowing you down from getting here to there, that means that, you know, maybe that person just isn't meant to be in your life. Maybe it's for now, maybe it's forever, but you need to make a decision to set a boundary. A boundary. You know, whether it's an energetic boundary or an actual, you know, no contact boundary, you know, you have to practice intuitive discernment with these things. But a lot of people don't have, you know, that discernment because they're not connected to their intuition. Because we're talking to other people and asking other people for advice when we have a direct line.
What are some ways that you can connect more with your intuition?
Sitting with yourself. Most people can't. It's very uncomfortable. Most people can't slow down enough to sit without distraction, without scrolling, without thinking.
Without technology.
That's the really hard one. So meditation was really hard for me to do. I'm a very left brain analytical person, especially being in survival mode for so long. It took me years to develop the ability to get back into my creative right brain and drop back into my feminine where I could really sit still and just be. And, you know, there's, again, another misconception is the polarity balance between masculine and feminine. You know, so many people take pride in one or the other. And, you know, our society and, again, the indoctrinations of society and just in general and many different movements that have happened over the, you know, last few decades have really shifted us from having that polarity balance to being extreme opposites for both men and women. So, you know, it's really finding that balance. Again, it's a polarity balance. And, you know, I really had to do a lot of research. My research came from people that were much, much, much smarter than me. It was my mentors. You know, you have to seek out a mentor that really understands and knows all of this. And then a lot of people align themselves with
that has a life that you desire to have.
Right.
If you find a mentor that is completely out of alignment with the life that you desire, then it's, you know, it's something to really be cognizant about. Do I really want to take advice, and really advice that I hold to that have that much weight if they're not living the life that I desire to live?
Right. And, you know, it's very important, again, the intuitive discernment of who you align yourself with as a mentor, because this person literally holds your hands or holds your life in their hands. And when you don't, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to spend money, or, you know, the time that it takes to invest into myself, I don't have that type of time. Well, you have the time to deconstruct. You have the time to, you know, do all of these things. It's really, how bad do you want it? Again, you know, when you're tired of your own shit, or something is driving you, whether it's a relationship or love or a career or a calling, something has to be driving you to make you want to make the shift.
Yeah.
So it's aligning yourself, yes, with someone that is where you aspire to be. But then again, it's how did they get there?
Right.
Was it ethically? Was it with integrity?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there are people that get to the top and we idolize them and we look up to them. But I'm like,
how did they actually get there? Yeah.
right. How did you actually get there? Or if you got there in, not the most, honest way, what did you learn and where was that shift? And can you tell me about that shift? Because if you can't be honest about when the shift occurred and what you've done to change that, because we all make mistakes. We've all, we can all look back and be like, I wish I would have known what I know now, or I wish I would have handled that differently, approached it differently, navigated it differently. But, if you can come and sit across from someone and someone's humble, and not just humble, but somebody that is actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk, because it's really easy when you have discernment to just kind of see through these stories that people tell, and you can see that they want to be that, but have they actually embodied it yet? Are they actually implementing these things? Are they actually integrating this into their life on a consistent daily basis? Or is this another mask, another facade, another look at me, this is who I want you to see me as, even though I'm broken and not even close to this yet because I've never even embarked on my journey yet. It's really, really important because a lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, life coaches, a lot of therapists are people that it's a bypassing, if you will, to put on the mask that I've got this together because
they don't have to address their own.
I have a piece of paper. Yes. I'm going to help you fix yours.
Yeah.
But I can't look at mine. So I'm just going to continue to help you fix yours. Right.
100%.
Yes. You need to fix this about yourself. And you're like, wait, what?
Another way to avoid doing the actual work, right?
I love all of this. And there's so many diamonds that you
I feel like we could talk for hours.
We could be
Your brain is brilliant. I'm like, I love listening to you talk.
So much greatness. But we do have to wrap this one up for today.
We will start somewhere else.
We'll have to do another. Yes, exactly.
Part one.
I look forward to spending more time and really.
It'd be great to have you guys come out to Tennessee and we could record in Nashville and then we could take a trip to the ranch.
I would absolutely love that. I would love
Let's
that
plan
very
it.
much.
Because I think that, I would be, so honored to host you and to allow you to have the floor to be able to share your experiences and why you guys, I mean, there's a reason we're sitting in the same room together. It means that we've connected, at different levels on life and philosophies and outlook.
And the frequency.
Everything.
And
Divine timing, divine connection. I feel that.
Yeah. And I would love to just be able to give you the floor to hear, from your experiences. And there's always something to learn, anytime I sit across from someone, the reciprocation, the wisdom and the gifts that we give one another, that's where the value is. Right.
And hearing you speak definitely like prompted me to reflect on my own journey. Like even hearing you speak, it's like healing, and I'm like, okay, there are a lot of things that I took away from it.
That's the point. It's really aligning ourselves with people that allow us to be in a place that's, again, safe enough to self-reflect and then to grow. Like someone that prompts your growth is invaluable. You just, you have to honor that person. And interestingly enough, every person that I sit across from, every client that I work with gives me a gift because it is a beautiful mirror of, seeing right now, if we could just wrap up with this, I just see two people that are, and I saw this before, but it just confirms what I see. You two are so full of love and light and just this energy of hope. Like I could feel it, this very compassionate, almost like you want to give the gift of what you feel in here. Like I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your faces. Like it's almost like I can feel the things that I can feel the things that you've been through to get you to the place that you are right now. And I'm not sure if you really have people that come on your show to build you up, but I think it's incredible. I think that you are two incredible human beings.
Thank you.
Without really knowing you deeply, I can feel you, so I know you. And I really think that if there's anything that I could say to you, because it's coming through right now, is to limit wherever there may still be self-doubt. because you're already there. Yeah. You are already what you continue to seek to become. You already are that. It's just believing it for it to actualize. Yeah. Right. So
thank you for that.
I love
that was beautiful.
Thank you.
If this was last thing, if this was the last day you had on Earth,
yes,
and you had one piece of just very like precise, like here it is, this line,
message or advice
for somebody that you care about or love, what would that be?
If you can walk through life and truly embody coming from a place of pure light and unconditional love, and apply it to why not? Live a life of why not? But do it with pure light and unconditional love. So, whatever you do, it's always, if someone asks you to do something, if you have an opportunity, if there's a chance, if that self-doubt creeps up, it's always answer it with, well, why not? But do it with integrity, love, and joy.
I love that. I love that.
There you go. I love it. You just have that. So
you do. You're like pure joy. I love that.
So if somebody, they resonate with this and they want to get in touch with you,
how do they find you?
So you can go to my website, which is caralove.com. My Kokoro podcast, which connects mind, body, and spirit, is officially going to be launching in January of 2026. We did a soft launch in November, and just compiling some stuff. Thank you.
Can't wait for that.
I'm so excited. My book, It Wasn't for Nothing, is also going to be coming out in 2026.
When?
I love the title.
When is it coming
I don't have a date.
Let's set a date.
I would love to set a date.
Let's do it. Let's make a commitment.
Interestingly enough, one philosophy that I have really adopted and implemented in my life, and I realize when it's my timing, it's not the right timing. It's when everything falls into place and I allow things to align. As that time comes, I can feel it and I know it narrows down. So instead of setting a goal for myself, not knowing what life is going to hand me, not knowing what God's path is for me, if I do that, I am then limiting myself by this commitment right here. When in all reality, I have to flow. So that has to flow too.
I love that perspective.
Yes.
That was a great, great
because what am I doing? I'm setting an expectation for myself that may or may not be achievable. And if I'm getting to a place where it's out of alignment, I'm going to stress. I'm going to have anxiety. I'm going to have unnecessary pressures that I place upon myself to meet a goal that maybe wasn't in alignment right here. My mind just thought it was in alignment, right?
I love it. So there's one more dropping off. All right, we got to wrap
that
this
explains
up.
all the stress I had this year.
Cara Love 333 is my IG handle.
Cara Love.
You can follow me there. I jump on my stories a lot, and I'm me. So if you want to get to know me better,
to get to know unapologetically Cara Love. She's going to share that with you. That's where you'll receive. So
thank you so much, Cara. It was a pleasure having you.
It was such a pleasure.
I gained so much out of this conversation.
That makes me so happy. I feel like, fulfilled knowing that this, took place, and I just called to be here today, and I'm just so thankful. I'm leaving with such joy in my heart because you two are just amazing, and I love that you're doing this together. That's a big thing. I think it's so important to have that. We talked about the polarity balance. I think it's beautiful.
We call it the Gynergy Effect.
Yep.
And we even dress like, I wear white most of the time. Garin wears black.
I noticed that the second I walked in. I did.
So that's our branding. Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yes.
And that's why, when you noticed even on my Instagram feed, everything is, you'll see the blacks that are in there, but then I look at myself as that light. So that balance between, the dark and the light, you cannot meet the totality of your light until you have made peace with and forgiveness and love with the dark. And you have to honor that side of you. Otherwise, you're rejecting part of you. So there has to be that balance between the light and the dark. And you guys, with the masculine and the feminine and the light and the dark, it's perfect.
There has to be the balance
you.
to create perfection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, and then we strive for perfection, but then it's like,
I think
don't strive for perfection.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're so imperfect and it's so beautiful. But
It's-
yeah, I
it's
understand. I understand what you mean.
perfect and perfection.
Imperfect perfection. The perfect imperfection.
Yes.
There you go. Because that's a human experience.
So
It is.
It's not supposed to be perfect.
Well,
God's
it's the
perfect.
beauty of it.
The whole point of us being here on earth is for the imperfect aspect of
Right.
it, to go experience and feel. And if everything was just this joyous and perfect and no pain, then you wouldn't know what joy was. You wouldn't know what love was, because you wouldn't understand the other side of that.
Well, and then the balance too of, when you feel the pain at these depths,
Yeah.
the balance is you will feel
That's what.
the joy and the
It
love
amplifies your
and the
capacity to
ecstasy
feel that, right? Yeah.
of above. So, wherever you are on that scale, just know that if this is nothing lasts forever.
That's right.
When it comes to the balance of
Yeah.
the duality and the polarity. So there's always, and then just be prepared when you have that, just know that it's to create space to hold something at a deeper level.
That's right.
And it's okay. It's how you navigate it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
for everything.
And you
Yeah.
have to learn that navigation, because that energy draw can be really.
But that's just it. You have to learn to
really-
navigate.
You have
Yeah.
to learn to navigate. That's
It's
a
shifting
skill.
perspective.
Yeah.
That
It's
is
shifting
a
your
skill
mindset.
set.
Reframing.
Reframing.
I will wait for episode 2 with Karen Love, because it's obvious that will have to come.
It will have to.
again,
I'm excited
and
for
you have
it
to
now.
check it out. But thank you guys for joining us and sharing this time, this energy. We don't take that for granted, and we know that Kara brought a ton of value today. And I hope you find value from us. If you do, please share, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you next episode on the Gynergy Effect.
Bye, guys.
If this episode spoke to your soul,
Share it with someone you love and tag us at the Gynergy Effect. We'd love to connect.
and remember, your energy is your power. Use it with intention.